Sometimes life goes a little off course. That's why you need a podcast host that can go a little off topic. This is the podcast that will give you straight talk about everything life throws at you. Welcome to another episode of Off Topic with Tom Powell. And here he is. This is Tom Powell.
I'm doing well. How are you?
Fat and sassy.
How's it going out there?
Slowly but surely improving. We have 34 and freezing rain today.
Yeah. I think we're supposed to get up to 30 today, but I think the freezing rain starts tomorrow.
And then we're supposed to be upper 30s, lower 40s most of the week, with one day actually reaching as high as 47. And given the fact that we have been below zero for a week and a half.
Yeah.
It's a refreshing change of pace. My daughter goes to school in the heart of Chicago and has been freezing her ass off.
I bet.
And she's been talking about the walks from her dorm to her class, and she also works. She goes to UIC,
Mm-hmm.
and she works at the arena for the UI where they play the basketball and volleyball games, and they have concerts and stuff. And it's a few block walk to there as well. And she's like, these are the coldest walks of my life. So she's learning that Chicago winter is a little bit different than suburban Chicago winter. When you're up against that lake, it gets downright nasty.
It does. And I've been to Chicago a couple times during the winter, and I was not prepared.
But now she says it feels like spring again.
Yeah.
Which is a Chicago thing. If it gets to 33 after a long cold snap, yeah, people are wearing shorts again around here.
Exactly.
First thing I want to say before we start this is thank you very much for doing this. I love your content.
Oh, thank you. Absolutely. I love yours as well.
Well, I do appreciate that. And I've been wanting to talk to you. So I've been doing this podcast as a way of doing non-political stuff. And then it didn't really take off, and I suspended it for almost a year. And it was just me talking about like weird news stories of the week. And then people were like, why don't you interview people? Why don't you interview people? I'm like, I don't know how to fucking interview anybody. I was a landscaper. And they're like, just talk to people. You'll be fine. And so now I get a chance to talk to all of the people that I really, really like and ask them stuff that I like this guy coming up in a few weeks he's a flight director at Mission Control.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And he's a former astronaut that spent 6 months on the space station. And he follows me on TikTok, and he's like, dude, I love your content, and I think you're fucking brilliant. And I'm like, you do realize that you are smart on a level like I'll never understand. So he sent me an autographed picture of himself, and it says, to the greatest modern day philosopher ever.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And then we're actually going down to Houston to see him in May.
Oh,
so
that'll be fun.
Getting a little behind the scenes of Mission Control. Anyway, I wanted to talk to you because, I do a lot of politics, as you know, and you guys are our neighbors, and
Yes.
I followed you for quite a while, and it seems like of everybody that I know, and there's not many, but of everybody that I know in the state of Missouri, you seem to give a shit more than most. So that's why I wanted to talk to you. So you ran for the first congressional district. Is that my understanding, right?
House district. HD1.
HD1. Now you ran unopposed in the primary, right?
Yes. I mean, we can rarely get any Democrat to run, much less two.
Well, that was one of the things that I wanted to ask about. Did you get any support from the state party at all?
No. In fact, they asked me to send my money to them because I had more money on hand than they did.
So it's one of those districts where they just chalk it up that it's red and we're never going to win it, so we're not going to put any resources into it.
It's not just one of them. It's one of dozens that they do that with. They pick They pick 3, 4, 5 that they're going to donate to, and everybody else is on their own.
And do you think that that with resources you might have had a better outcome? I don't know where you finished in that race. My apologies.
No. I got a fourth of the vote. I got 25%, which is 4 points more than the person who ran 4 years before me did. But my district has never elected a woman and hasn't elected a Democrat in 32 years. So, and I raised more money than anybody across the state. So I did the very best that I could do. My issue is not a money issue. Now it is for most people, but for some reason my campaign just caught on and I was able to raise a shit ton of money.
I got to reorient this. My apologies.
No worries.
Well, first of all, congratulations on being able to raise that much money, especially in a red state and a red area.
Yeah.
But it's aggravating when the Democrats just give up on a district. So, like the district that I live in was at one point in time Illinois' 16th congressional district, Adam Kinzinger's district.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if you've ever seen the layout of our old district map or not, but the 16th congressional district essentially wraps around the Chicagoland area, and it goes from Rockford up in the north all the way down and around to us, and it covers this wide swath of farmland, essentially, and very rural thinking here in Illinois. And there were a couple of gentlemen and one woman that ran against Adam Kinzinger over the years, and they could get no support from the Illinois Democratic Party in any way. They were like, we're never going to win that district. Why would we put resources into that district? And I'm like, because Adam Kinzinger is that vulnerable of a candidate. You can beat Adam Kinzinger. Yeah. But they didn't want to do it. And now we've been redrawn so badly that my district is gerrymandered to an unrecognizable state of affairs. I am now in the same district. I am 45 minutes southwest of the border of the city of Chicago, and I am in the same district now as people that live along Lakeshore Drive on the south side of Chicago.
Right. Yeah.
You guys have horrible gerrymandering in your state as well?
Yeah, I mean, they draw their own districts. My district isn't necessarily gerrymandered. I don't think there's anything they can do with it. I just live in a very, very rural space that doesn't usually have a Democrat. I don't have, I mean, and we can talk about this if you want to hit record. I mean, I'll probably talk about it again, but all of my representatives, from my sheriff to Josh Hawley.
Oh, I'm already recording. Okay. Recording. Yeah, sorry.
Okay. No, it's okay. Okay. Because I was like, I'm going to talk about this stuff. So no, not necessarily gerrymandered, but like I said, we go years without candidates. And like places in the Boot Hill, they might go decades without candidates. That means that regular folks aren't hearing a Democratic message, right? They're in information silos. They're listening to Fox or Newsmax or Breitbart. And so they're just hearing these messages about Democrats. And when I would show up and knock on a door, people would be surprised because they were like, no, I thought you had horns or at least blue hair and piercings, right?
Right.
And I was like, no, I was actually your grandson's teacher. And so when you bring a Democratic message, it really does resonate with folks.
So it's extraordinarily rural, it's extraordinarily red, and you said something else, which was they've never had a woman in
my district has never elected a woman.
So do you find a lot of people in your district are like, get back in the kitchen, like Missy and
I was a teacher for a very long time, and so I wasn't used to blatant sexism because I usually worked around women most of my day. And so when I got out on the campaign trail, my first bout was from an elected Republican who said, well, do you have kids? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, who's going to take care of them while you're in Jeff City? And I was like, my husband? I mean, would you ask my husband who's going to take care of his kids? Right. So in that moment, I was like, what does he mean? Does he mean because I'm a woman? And then when I started knocking doors, I had definite sexism hit me in the face. And it was weird because, I mean, if boys can do it, girls can too. I'm confused, right? And I'm very you've seen my husband. I'm married to a very rural but very progressive man who does the dishes and also takes cares of the cows. So it was all confusing to me, but there's definitely a lot of sexism that goes into politics.
Oh, yeah, I mean, goes into life in general, and not just politics. But I got to imagine that in a place like Missouri, and I got to admit, I don't know a lot about Missouri. I know that you guys are our neighbors. I know that you guys are very red, and I know that I've heard enough things about Missouri that I tend to be like, I'm going to drive around Missouri if I can avoid it. No offense towards your state. It's a lovely state. It's just from a political standpoint. Listen, I've got deep ties to Indiana on the other side, and it is just
Yeah,
like,
you get it.
yeah. I have a daughter and two granddaughters currently living in the state of Indiana that if I could, I would reach in and pluck them out and get them here in a blue state. Have you
And
ever
I'm
thought about moving to a blue state?
Oh, of course. It would make my life so much easier, right? But at the end of the day, I don't like traffic. I don't like a whole lot of interactions with folks. I like to be on my own. I like, I have a donkey. I have dogs. We have cows. I'm not exactly equipped to move into the suburbs. And this is my state too. Screw every single one of y'all. This is my state too. And there's no reason why I shouldn't be able to have bodily autonomy and that I have to send my daughters off out of state, right? There's no reason for that. That's just bullshit. And I'm sick of dealing with it. And I'll say this too, because people, I mean, you had mentioned that we're a red state and people say that a lot, but Missouri's uncontested. 40% of our seats went uncontested. We don't know how red we are. We passed recreational weed, Tom. I mean, we had medical, now
Yes.
we have recreational. We beat back right to work. We beat back concealed carry. We expanded Medicaid, and we did all those things because we have an IP process. So now we're going to put abortion on the ballot. So what do you think is going to happen? It's going to win, right? Because it's one in every state. So now the Missouri Republicans are like, we're going to get rid of that IP process. And they're in the process of doing that right now, trying to do the same thing Ohio did, make it more difficult to put ballot initiatives or initiatives on the ballot.
So where does Missouri stand right now when it comes to abortion? What are the official laws?
Total ban. Total ban. There is no one getting an abortion in this state. If you travel there's one Planned Parenthood in the entire state. And by the way, it's 5 hours from me. It's in St. Louis. I'm at the very top northwest of the state on the Iowa line. So even if I needed an abortion, I wouldn't drive the 5 hours. I'd have to go out of state. But if you go to St. Louis, they just send you across the river to Illinois. It's just easier. And there's, way fewer restrictions.
And Missouri has not yet, I'm assuming, enacted measures like Texas has, where even if you go out of state to get an abortion, we're going to criminally prosecute you. We're going to hold you criminally liable for leaving the state and going to a state where it's legal.
They're trying. Mary Elizabeth Coleman is a senator in Missouri, and she wrote a bill last year for the bounty. If you know of some woman who's leaving, then you can, turn her in. And it's not supposed to be charges for her, but maybe charges for the person who is taking her. But all of that is just, a clown show on the side. They've already done what they can do. They've already banned it. And so now they're doing incredibly harmful things, like trying to defund Planned Parenthood. So to get your Medicaid expansion, to get that money, you have to pass this, I forget what they call it, but every couple of years it comes up. Well, our Senate is in disarray because the very extreme GOP are fighting the most extreme GOP. And we're a super majority. So Democrats don't even need to show up to work, right? So you have these two factions of Republicans that are fighting each other. And it could impact our Medicaid expansion because they don't want any money going to Planned Parenthood. So they're going to object to getting the federal Medicaid funds. But here's the thing, Tom, you can't get an abortion there anyway. So all they're doing is defunding women who are going there for STI, appointments or pap smears. They're literally making sure that the poorest women who cannot get access to an abortion anyway also can't get access to any sort of, sexual health.
I don't understand the thinking when it comes to that. I don't. So like, we'll get into that another time. So you say that abortion, you believe you're going to put it out, it's going to be on the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
You believe it's going to win. Based on the fact that the state keeps electing the people that pass these laws, what makes you think it's going to win there?
Because 40% of the seats are uncontested.
I understand that 40% of the seats are uncontested, but it still seems like a pretty conservative state to me.
I would say it's conservative. Missouri has always been purple. The Democrats absolutely pulled out of the state. When you pull out and you have, we do not have one elected Democrat from a rural space in this state. 30% of Missouri is rural. We don't have one elected Democrat who represents a rural space. And that's because we don't have candidates. We don't have nominees. We don't have anybody talking to folks about progressive items, right? People don't know what they don't know. So they'll go to the ballot and they'll say, yeah, I think women should have health care. Yeah, I think anyone should, be able to buy recreational weed if they want it, whatever, who cares? If they will vote for those things, and we do every time, that progressivism is alive and well here. Folks don't recognize it, and they don't have the option to vote for Democrats.
I think at the end of the day, people really just want to be able to live their lives and be left alone. And I think at the end of the day, whether they consider themselves to be conservative or liberal, whether they consider themselves to be Republican or Democrat, I think that what I have found anyway is that most people are of the opinion, I don't give a shit what you do. Just let me do my thing. And you do you, I'm going to do me. I see that a lot out here where I live. Where I live, it's an extraordinarily red little town in the far southwest suburbs. And even though we're in a blue county and in a blue state, the town I live in is very, very red. Goes for Trump without question, right? I mean, Trump wins this town without even trying. But then you turn around and you drive the neighborhoods, and what really blows my mind and my wife's too is you see all of these people with proud union home signs in their lawns, right next to Trump signs, and it's like, what? Do you not see the dichotomy there? Do you not see what you're doing? Do you not see that you are literally voting against your own best interest? And so, when you talk to people, like, for example, I was stunned when Missouri got legalized cannabis. When I was like, fucking Missouri? I never in a million years would I would have thought that, And so, I understand, that the progressivism is alive and well, but I don't know that it's necessarily progressivism. It's just people just don't want to be bothered. It's like, you just leave me alone. If I want to smoke my weed, let me smoke my weed. If you don't want to smoke your weed, don't smoke your weed. But when it comes to that issue of abortion, they view it as murder, and they view it as murder, I believe, in personal opinion, from a distorted and twisted perception of what their religious text tells them. It's all coming from some type of religious background. It's all coming from some type of religious foundation. And oddly enough, the very God that they worship killed a shitload of kids.
Well, and I was born and raised an evangelical. I was a Southern Baptist until my 20s. And so I 100% agree with you, because we were taught it's propaganda that there are people murdering babies, and they think those little cells actually make up the form of a baby, right? And we have people writing laws in Missouri who think that you can reimplant an ectopic pregnancy. They think if you have a DNC because you had a miscarriage, that's not an abortion. They are banning care because they're the dumbest people you've ever met on the planet. And I can say that because I talked to them. I've met them. I had imposter syndrome. I'm a teacher with a master's degree. And when people would talk to me about running, I'm like, that's not for me. I'm too stupid to do this. And then I talked to these people and I was like, holy shit. Like, these people are dumb. they're taking money from donors and doing what the donors tell them to. They're trying to pass healthcare resolutions for trans kids. There's a video the other day of 3 Missouri lawmakers who were writing bills against trans kids. And one of the Democrats said, "Can you guys go ahead and tell me what you do for a living?" Right? One was a pastor, one was a cop, one was an administrative assistant. And they wrote a bill defining sex and defining care for trans kids. A cop, a pastor, an administrative assistant. Get out of here. I'm so sick of this. I'm so sick of looking around and seeing a union sticker and a Trump sign. What's wrong with you? I'm so sick of seeing a woman going around that says "Women for Trump." You might as well punch yourself in the face. What is wrong with you? And a lot of this, Tom, too, is people that don't understand class structure and who is at the top and what they're telling us to do. And that's why I think labor was such a good movement, because it was solidarity. It was people of certain classes coming together. And now you have people that are absolute bootlickers making $30,000 a year saying, why shouldn't we, give forgiveness for PPP loans for millionaires? I'm like, what is wrong with you? Have solidarity with the people that will come together for you.
But not forgiveness for student loans.
Hell no, not for student loans, not for the social worker or the teacher or the state patrolman who needs a degree to work, but for millionaires who took out millions of dollars and had it forgiven. I can't stand that. I can't stand bootlickers. I mean, I use that word a lot, but by God, it's true. That's what they are.
Something like the start of a very bad joke there. A cop, a pastor, and a secretary walk into a bar.
I'll walk into the state capitol.
So obviously, you are passionate about the things that are happening in your state. But you said that, when people would talk to you about running, you would like, and I get people talk to me all the time about running for like school board. And I keep telling them, I said, you don't want me on your school board. Our school board determines our curriculum. I'm a high school dropout. I have good policy positions, but when it comes to education, that's not where you want me. Having said that,
I'll tell you this though, Tom, you're discounting yourself, because this is what you do on a school board. You listen to the experts. You would listen to the teachers. You would listen to the administrators, and then you would make decisions according to the experts who gave you their opinion. You're the exact opposite of the people who shouldn't be on there, who have a master's degree in engineering and who get on there and who want to ban books. All you have to do is listen to what the teachers are telling you, and you can make good decisions. But anyway, that's your decision. I'm just saying, don't discount yourself.
Do you guys have a problem? Just to really quickly go off on that little side note there. Do you guys have book bans going on in Missouri?
Yeah, in Missouri, in the big fancy rich schools, they do. My school, where we pay our teachers $30,000 a year and half the schools are in 4 days a week, heck no, there isn't a book ban. We can barely keep anything going at all. That's for, I'm going to tell you what book bans are for. Rich, white, bored women. And I don't know any of those people. Everybody I know is hardworking.
Yeah, like Al Gore's wife.
with the music.
Yeah, remember Tipper Gore?
Now you're going back. You're going old school.
I'm going to get the name right here. It's the Parents Music Resource Center, the PMRC. Yep. Wanted to put that little label on all the CDs, that as soon as they stuck it on all the CDs,
that's the one I bought.
Every kid like me was like, "Fuck yeah, I got to have that." Yeah. Oh, Motley Crue's latest album has an advisory sticker on it. I'll take 2. What I was going to ask you, when you had said people talking to you about running, and you kept going, "I'm not smart enough. I'm not smart enough." What made you finally decide to run?
When I went to the ballot in 2020 to vote for Joe Biden, and I didn't have a Democrat to vote for state rep, I was sick of it. I'm done. I'm all done. I'm done. I'm done putting my head in the sand. I'm done giving up. I'm done letting these people get free rides down to the state capitol every single year. I was sick of it. And I came home and told my husband, he was like, "Oh God." And in Missouri, you can't run for state representative and be a teacher. So I had to finish out the year, and I had to walk away from my career.
Really? I did not know that. Mm-hmm. Interesting. So you did you go back then, or are you out?
I'm working on my own. I work for an organization called Blue Missouri, raising money for down ballot candidates because the Democratic Party doesn't support them. But I'll tell you this, it'd be real hard for me to go back because I said the word abortion, and everybody and their dog would say I don't want my kid in her class, and so it would make it hard for a school district, honestly, to hire me because I live in BFE, I live in the sticks. You know, it is what it is.
And for those of you who are listening to this podcast and don't know what BFE means, that would stand for bumfuck Egypt. Or as we like to call it around here, where Jesus left his sandals.
The sticks.
The sticks, yeah, way out in the hinterland. Yeah, so like I was born and raised in the near west suburbs of Chicago. So I was born in and grew up in a very urban area.
Yeah.
Like right outside the city of Chicago, where the suburbs really resemble the Chicago neighborhoods, and there's public buses running, and there's L trains still running, and all of that shit. And my father was from a small town in southern Indiana, and I would spend my summers on my grandfather's farm down there, and then come back, and then go and come back, and then when I graduated 8th grade, my father and I moved down there, and I went to high school down there, and people up here don't really realize how rural can get, and how okay. So when I went to high school, the town I went to high school in had 4,500 people in it. There were 440 kids in my entire high school. That's all 4 grades combined.
Yeah.
When we played, I was on the football team my freshman year. You had to play both offense and defense because there were not enough kids.
Yeah.
And there's a comedian by the name of Cedric the Entertainer that describes his rural family, and he's like most of you guys think that you get to a certain point and you're out in the country. And he's like, no. He goes, first you got to drive down that highway, then you get off on a paved road, and you drive down that paved road, and then you get off on a gravel road. You drive down that gravel road, then you get off on a dirt road. He goes, then your ass in the country. He goes, let me tell you something. It gets dark as night in the country, son. It gets fucking like my kid said to me when we were down there, I left my toothbrush in the car. He goes, you're gonna have to wait for that shit until tomorrow morning. I'm not going out there.
I know my daughter, we have, the big industrial lights, but yeah, when my daughter forgets something in the car, she's like, oh God, and like we don't have a garage, everything's outside, right? And we do, and you can see my name on here, Dirt Road Democrat. I mean, I'm not kidding.
Right, yeah,
Right?
exactly. And like out there, like where things are just stone cold silent in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And you can just hear like that train off in the distance. But anyway, we're not here to reminisce about the country life. So you said that you couldn't go back because you said the word abortion, and you experienced a lot of sexism when you were going door to door. I have to imagine that at some point in time you've had some pretty nasty things said to you while you were running for office.
Tom, I'll say this. I don't know if you follow me on Twitter, but I have to pretty much turn off. I don't turn off comments. I mute them so I don't see them, because every day, you fat bitch. Like that's what I wake up to 10, 12 times every single day. And first I'm like, well, I'm pretty average. I'm a grandmother. But other than that, door to door, no. People could absolutely hate my guts. They're not going to be rude to me. I mean, I live in the country in the Midwest. They're not going to say anything to me. The worst thing I had someone say is, I was talking about, in an ectopic pregnancy, you would need an abortion. And the man said, if a woman dies of an ectopic pregnancy, that's God's will. And like that to me was I had one woman throw me off her porch. She was really old and I could hear Fox News blaring in the back. But this is what happened, Tom. She looked at my literature. She said, are you a Democrat? And I said, yes. And she kind of crumpled it up and threw it back at me. And she said, take your money off my porch. And I don't know what that meant. But her little dog got between her legs and ran out. And she's an elderly lady screaming at me at the door. So I went and chased her dog down, a couple blocks. I come back with her dang dog and give it back to her. And then she throws me off her porch again. So that was the worst thing. But no, I mean, people aren't mean to you at your door. This is the Midwest, people are
No,
coming
not at the
back.
door, but I mean, obviously, you've had nasty things said to you while you were running for
Oh,
office.
oh
Listen,
yeah.
you see my content. People say the nastiest shit to me in comments, and I had a recent video of mine has made its way into MAGA talk, and I'm inundated with the trolls in there leaving comments, and now I'm getting a flood of message requests. You fat fuck, go kill yourself. You obese son of a bitch. This you ignorant, and it's just like, oh, okay, whatever. Have you ever
Whatever.
have you ever had your life threatened?
Yes, many times. And I'll say this. Um, I have dogs and I have a donkey, and both of those things alert me to anybody around me. But I was also born and raised a country girl. And so I wouldn't recommend coming out to try to hurt me.
I'm
But
assuming that was via like social media or something.
yes, I've had direct messages, yeah, and social media. And I did have my car, either sugar or water was poured into my gas tank. And so my car died, which was a big hassle because cars are expensive. And I had to replace the engine and it had 150 on it. So I was like, forget it, and just had to buy a new one. And that was frustrating, but yeah. And of course, I live with two huge country boys too. So come on.
Well, that was going to be my next question: is what did your family make of the threats?
They were mad. They were really, really angry. But I'm really not scared because I think that if someone was going to harm me, they probably wouldn't tip me off first. You're right.
That's my point. Like, I
Yeah.
get it all the time, and people are like, "Don't you get scared?" So, like, I've had people uh, leave comments in the comment section telling me they were going to leave a bomb on my porch.
Oh God.
Cut me up and throw me in the river. One person said that they left a bomb on my porch and asked if I could have my daughter go get it, and they called her by name. You know, could you have Magnolia go get it? They told me they were going to abort my kids with their shotgun. They told me they were going to see me swing from a rope at the end of a rope on a tree. And people will say to me, "Well, don't you ever get worried that they're going to follow through with it?" And I say the same thing that you said. No, because if somebody was really serious about it, chances are they're not going to talk about it. They're just going to do it.
Right. Right.
Kind of like in the movie Goodfellas. Yeah, Goodfellas. When he gets arrested by the cops, he's pulling out of his driveway at night, and all these cops are there. And the one cop comes up to the window with his gun, and he goes, "Don't you fucking move, or I'll blow your fucking head off." And he goes, "For a minute, I thought it was Wise Guys." He goes, "But Wise Guys don't talk like that. Had it been Wise Guys, I wouldn't have known anything. I would have just been dead." And that's my point: is if somebody's going to leave a bomb on my porch, they're just going to leave a bomb on my porch. They're
It's
not
so
going to tell me they're going to do it.
it's just so sad though that we're in this space where it's because of politics that people will threaten you because you have a different viewpoint. And that's a point in America that I think is, really disturbing. But, it is an online world for them. But when we, leave our house, no one's threatening me. My neighbors aren't threatening me. My neighbor has Trump regalia everywhere. He mowed the word Trump into his the bank and then painted it. And but here's the thing. We don't visit. It's not like we're on friendly terms or anything. And I say he's my neighbor. He's several acres away. But if my cows got out, he'd help me put them up. If his cows got out, we'd help him put them up. If he's on the side of the road with a flat, I'd stop and help him fix it because at the end of the day, we're neighbors,
Well,
right?
and that's the thing is when you do have I get ripped on. So I'm sure like most places, you guys have like local community Facebook pages that talk about what's going on so we have one called the Talk of the Town, Shanahan and Minooka. The two towns are Shanahan and Minooka. We share park districts, we share high schools. We act as one big town, but we're really two separate towns. And I get ripped on and threatened and screamed at in the comment sections of posts on there all the time. And then when I go out in the town, when I go out to the bowling alley and I go to the restaurant, None of that. And I run into the people who are talking to me that way, and they don't say those things to my face. They don't go. They don't run into me at the bowling alley and go, "Oh, you fat fuck, you're going to drop dead of a heart attack, you liberal piece of shit." Then it's, "Hey Tom, how's it going?"
Well, and that's the thing about online stuff too. And my town is so small that I don't know of any of those Facebook pages that actually, but there's larger towns. But I'm not in any of them because I know they probably do say those things. And quite honestly, I don't want to know some of the opinions of folks that I don't hate. So, like if they have really bad opinions about politics, but it's not hurting me, I just rather not know. So I'm not a member of any of those, and we don't have like Nextdoor or any of that stuff because I'm in the sticks.
Right. Oh yeah, Nextdoor. Yeah, the Nextdoor app is interesting. People don't really talk about it or talk on it around here that much. It's usually it's Facebook, about it's always Facebook.
Yeah.
But I mean, just today's Monday. Yeah, just yesterday, my son had bowling practice, and the lane was full, and he's with his coach, and he's practicing. And as the family's leaving, some guy goes, "Hey, love your stuff, Tom. I follow you." And one of the guys who owns the bowling alley, he always introduces me to all of his friends as his favorite liberal, because his daughter follows me and keeps telling her dad, you got to listen to this guy. You got to listen to this guy. And so she keeps sending him my TikToks. And he's like, I actually like what you have to say. He goes, I may not agree with it all the time, but at least I like the way you say it.
So Tom, that's a really important point that you're talking about right here. And that's getting in front of your neighbors and them knowing how you feel and then being around you and saying, he's not a bad guy. Like I don't hate him. So why the message, then you start messing with what they're hearing, their information silo, opposed to real life. And they're like, I like Tom. So you've already broken something there in them because they can't hate every liberal, right? They can't say every whatever because they know Tom. And that's why it's important when I talk about, not having candidates. It was important. I knew I was going to lose. I did because it's mathematically, we don't even have enough Democrats to actually win. I don't. So I talked to a lot of Republicans and things, and I had a lot of people that listened to me and told me they couldn't vote for me, but it doesn't mean they can't always not vote for me, right? It doesn't mean that they will never change their mind. That's why it's important that we have people on the ground knocking doors and talking to people, because otherwise they thought they'd never met a Democrat. They were like, I don't know any. Yes, you do, because I just talked to your neighbor 2 doors down and she's registered. You do know one. You just didn't know, right?
See, and I found that to be the case when it came to having the conversations in Illinois about legalizing cannabis, right? I don't know of anybody that smokes weed. We don't need that stuff. We're going to get all the bad element in town. Well, do you know so-and-so? Yeah, he smokes weed. Do you know the guy that owns this shop in town? Yeah, he smokes weed. Really? Yeah. Do you know this lady? Yeah, she takes edibles. No. Yeah. And then they look around and go, Bill, the guy who owns the tire shop in town, smokes weed. Yeah, smoked it with him.
And see, and that's a funny thing too, because I'm a complete square and I had never ever smoked in my life. But I was like, do I want it legalized? Yes, because this is none of my business. And I've never seen anybody, to me, being drunk always seemed to be a worse way of taking care of things than eating a gummy. So I was like, why not? Go for it.
Come on, Jess. All the cool kids are doing it.
I have these crazy, crazy liberal ideas, but at the core, I can't break apart from some of that evangelical training that has I was indoctrinated, and I mean, it's still a work in progress trying to undo evangelical indoctrination.
Will you run again?
I'd rather not. And it's only because I think I can be of more value doing statewide things than just trying to focus on myself in one little northwest part of Missouri that quite frankly is going to take at least a decade, maybe 15 years before we can get it back, right? It's going to take a long time. And also I don't have the personality to run like that. It's just not in me. it takes a lot of, and I don't say this lightly because I ran and I don't want to make anyone who's running feel bad, but it does take a certain amount of hubris and belief in yourself to, you know, put yourself out there and run. And I don't necessarily have that. And I do think I take things personal, and also because it's bigger than me. There's so much going on in Missouri that's bigger than this little corner. I mean, they're privatizing our schools. We are 50th in the nation for teacher pay. Tom, I was a teacher for 16 years with a master's degree, and I walked out making $41,000 a year. My paycheck after teacher retirement was $2,200 a month. That's what I lived on. 16 years, a master's degree. And I don't think people realize when I say we're 50th what that means. The young kids who come in every single year for 1 year and teach at my daughter's school, they'll start out making around $33,000 a year, which means they get about $1,500 in their pocket after retirement. And they can't live on it. And so we go down to 4 days a week because we can't recruit teachers and we can't keep teachers, and we train them and we put a whole bunch of resources into them, and then they go to Kansas City the next year because they can't afford to eat here, right? And I don't, that is so problematic that I can't say it enough. And now we're in that position, 50th in teacher pay, 49th in educational funding, and now they're trying to pull more funding to give it to people who want a coupon for their private school. You know, that's what a voucher is, a coupon for a voucher or for a private school. By the way, my kid doesn't have school choice. There ain't nobody coming out here to open up a school. There's not enough kids. Market solutions? The fuck are you talking about? I don't even have a coffee shop. I don't have a Target. I don't have a Walmart. I got a gas station and 3 smoke shops. You think someone's coming out here to open up a private school? No. All they're doing is draining my school of resources. My daughter came home with a book that was 20 years old. And the funny thing is, I put a picture of it on Twitter because it was taped. The whole spine was just taped. There wasn't any more book material. And they said, kids don't read books anymore. They're online. Well, that's cute. 1, they do read books. And 2, you act like we have access to the internet, right? That is adorable. That's cute.
Yeah,
that's what we're dealing with.
Yeah, one of the topics that you talk about all the time is this incredible coincidence that as soon as they say we're going to give you guys some state funding for the private schools, all of a sudden the cost of private schools seems to go way up. Oh, we're going to have more customers? We can charge more.
The thing that matters, and this goes back to class solidarity, they don't want your kids, they don't want my kids in elite private schools. Our kids aren't meant for that, right? So if our kid does get a voucher and it's $8,000, they're going to raise the price of the tuition to 16 so they can still make their 8. And if you ain't, rich enough to be able to make up the difference, then too bad, because we didn't want the riffraff anyway, right? That was the point. If poor people looking around and saying the voucher is going to save me, I'm sorry, friends, it is not. It's not meant for you. It's not meant for you. It's meant for rich people who already had their kids in private schools. Not for you.
They just want to save some money off the cost of that tuition.
Right. And how the closest private school to me is 56 miles away. How could I do it anyway? And now in Missouri, they're talking about open enrollment, which sounds great. If my local school's failing, then I can just take my kid to another local school, right? It's local school to local school, so it should be no big deal. How would a poor person get their kid to that school without a bus? How would they get them there when they work first shift, at Kawasaki, and they got to be there at 6 o'clock? How are they going to get their kid to school, right? People, it's still meant for those who have enough money that they don't need buses, they don't need a free lunch, they don't need these things. So again, it's not meant for us, it's meant for them. And I wish my folks, my poor white rural folks, would open their eyes and see GOP's got nothing for you, friend. They are trying to, put your kids to work at 14 at the chicken plant, trying to make sure you're working until you're 70 years old, that you don't have access to health care, that your teeth are going to fall out of your head, and that your kid can't get an education. That's what the GOP stands for.
Don't forget, and they want to be able to marry your 14-year-old daughter.
Well, I mean, we had a state senator in Missouri who argued for the fact that, 11-year-olds should be able to get married. on the Senate floor.
Yeah, which, the party of protect the children, the party of lock up the international pedophiles, I don't understand how they don't see that their own party in state after state after state is fighting against measures to make it illegal to marry kids. But then again, they don't see any of that stuff because for some reason the GOP has been able, in some way, the GOP has been able to convince all of them that they're all the next billionaire in waiting. That they're all, you got to make sure that the people above you pay less in taxes, because when you get there, you don't want to pay those taxes. And not only have they convinced them of that, but in my opinion, and I don't know what it's like in Missouri, but in my opinion, they've also convinced them that the root of their problem is not bad policy. It's not because they vote against their best interest. It's not because they are an ill-informed voting base. It's usually, and we see this a lot coming from the Chicagoland area, it's usually them dark people in the city. They're the ones taking your resources. They're the reasons why you don't have money for this. They're the people who take all the welfare. They're the reasons that are sucking off the government tit. And they're the reasons why your life hasn't panned out. The GOP has convinced people in Iowa that the border should be their number one concern.
Listen, friend, I'm on the Iowa border. I've had the same congressman. He's been up there for 22 years. He's not done anything meaningful on immigration. He sent out an email last week saying the border was our biggest thing. Sam, I live in a town that's 98% white, and our district is 88% white. And the border is over 1,000 miles away from us. And these folks that are trying to come up here are working for companies that, are putting them to work on roofs and things like that. We had a huge storm come through. Guess what we couldn't get? Roofing, siding, all of the things that people who are coming to this country who have been shown to be able to do and are willing to do when white folks aren't crawling up on top of a roof, right? White folks aren't putting up the siding, right? But because they're going to limit immigration, now we got to roll back child labor laws so I can put a 14-year-old on my roof, right? I mean, it's just outrageous. It's outrageous to say that immigration has anything to do with Iowa or where I am right now, other than the fact that we could probably have services that we don't have.
The other thing that I got a kick out of watching those Iowa caucuses was all of those "we need voter ID" folks just jot their name down on a piece of paper and throw it into a grocery bag.
Yeah.
Is anybody checking IDs there? All of a sudden, you guys don't give a shit about IDs, do you?
Well, they were all white, Tom. I mean, there wasn't any black or brown folks in the crowd. Then they'd be asking for an ID.
Well, you know what the motto is there. It's great to be white.
Thank God for Mississippi is ours.
My goodness. Oh, my God. So I want you to talk about, if you could, please, a little bit more about Blue Missouri and Dirt Road Democrats.
Mm-hmm. So Blue Missouri, so I lost my race, and there is no infrastructure for a candidate who has lost their race, right? You just go back to work or whatever. But I couldn't. And so I knew I needed to do something. Plus I had quite a following, and people, like the messaging that I give them. And so my friend Michelle, who started Blue Missouri, reached out and she said, hey, would you be interested in raising money for down ballot candidates? Because there is no way, and folks think if you sign up and put your name on the ballot as a Democrat, that the state party is going to send you funds. And that is absolutely not true. It is absolutely not true. In fact, you send them funds so that you can have access to things like, the Voter Access Network van, so you can knock doors and make calls. But anyway, so our sole purpose, and I think in Missouri, we are the only organization whose sole purpose is to give money to down ballot Democratic nominees. And also 100% of the donations go to these nominees. I'm paid out of a different part. So if you send us $10 a month, I think $9.78 goes to a nominee because we have to pay credit card fees. But anyway, it's legit. It's up and up because I'm not putting my name on any shit that's not legit and doing what it's supposed to. And as far as Dirt Road Democrat, I mean, I have a weekly podcast, but it's also just reinforcing the message that there are progressives in rural parts of America. My grandpa worked in coal mines in Arkansas in the 1930s, my great grandpa, and he was part of a union, right? My grandma was a nurse. She was part of a union. there were progressives who knew that FDR was doing what he should be doing and lifted them out of poverty as farmers, right? And because I'm from Arkansas. And somewhere along the way, we've lost our way, and we've let the churches tell us how to vote. We've let GOP tell us that the most important thing is not the economy, not your roads, not access to health care, not good wages, but 6 trans kids in the state who need to use the bathroom, right? They have to say that over and over again because they don't have policies. And I have to go out and tell my folks who live out in areas like me, they don't give shit about us. They don't care about you or your kids or your wages or anything else. They are picking your pocket and making you turn your head and look at other people who have absolutely nothing to do with your daily lives. There is not one trans person that has anything to do with my daily life, other than if they're being marginalized or attacked. I feel like I need to stand up and say something, right? So it's people that live in rural parts of America who have been left behind by both parties, but I align with the values of one party. Yes, they're not here. Yes, I don't know where they went or, how long it's been, but I align with Democratic policies. And so do my neighbors when we get down to it. We just got to vote better. And for God's sake, Tom, we got to have someone to vote for.
And personally speaking, and I don't know if there's any validity to this thought process, it's just a gut feeling. I think that the difference makers could be the rural women, the people who have been told that there's a place for them, and that place is in the kitchen, that place is in the home. They've always done what their husbands have told them to do. They've always followed their husband's lead, but in the back of their head, they're like, but I don't think like that. I don't give a shit if Timmy and Billy get married. I don't care if Bobby's smoking weed. I don't care if Susie says she's really a man. It's we've seen in recent elections that the difference makers can be the women. That the difference makers in 2020 were the suburban white women who were like, whoa, you're coming after my rights?
Yeah.
And then in 2022, that it was the urban black women that were like, no, we're not doing this shit. And I think once the rural women of America, and I'm wondering, I would love to know, and I don't know if there's any metric by which to know this. I would love to know how many rural women in this country go to cast a ballot and their husbands, for example, think they're voting for, let's say, Trump, but really they're like, yeah, not a chance in hell. And once they're in that booth, they vote completely differently than their husbands do, but there just aren't enough of them. Do you think Missouri will ever actually turn blue?
I think if we come together as a coalition, I think if Democrats in Kansas City and St. Louis don't forget about Democrats in the Boot Hill, right? I think that it is possible, and this is what gives me hope. One, the progressive ballot initiatives that always pass, but two, looking at states like Texas. Greg Abbott took $6 million to privatize public schools, and he could not get it done. They had every lobbyist, every talking head, every DeVos person in that state telling people, you want vouchers, and it didn't pass. And I'll tell you why. Because Democrats came together with rural GOP lawmakers who knew that there is no choice in their rural towns, in their rural districts, and they refused to go forward. The path forward, especially with things like school vouchers, is getting these GOP lawmakers who know they will pay for it if they vote for that. So you're right in saying you need to get these rural folks, even if they don't identify as a Democrat. School choice matters to everybody. Bodily autonomy matters to everybody. But you have to be willing to get out of your cities and come to the rural places and talk to folks, and also make sure that they have someone to vote for. That's why I don't stop. It's not like I'm sitting in here in the lap of luxury, right? I mean, I'm in a town. I'm in a house I paid $29,000 for, Tom. If you want to come out my way, the house across the street sold for 20, and it has an acre on it. But here's the thing: we do live in spaces that I think people would want to be in. Would you like to have a house for 20,000 and an acre of land? I mean, there's a lot of people that would like that, right?
Oh, yeah.
We're here. Yeah, we're here. We just need folks to realize that rural spaces have the same needs as urban spaces. And vote, voter apathy is a thing, and make sure that people have a choice. I can't say that enough. I don't know that anyone is running for the race that I ran for. It is likely in 2024 in November that I go and vote and there will not be anyone on my ballot, no Democrat on my ballot.
Write your own name in again.
I can do that. I can do that. I sure won't vote for them.
Okay. This is a question that I've been asking towards the end of all of these interviews that I've been doing, because most of the people, all of the people so far that I have been interviewing are people that I have had an opportunity to meet via TikTok, which I never in a million years thought I would ever have any kind of connection with people through a social media app, the way it works on that app. How has being on TikTok changed your life?
Well, it helped me raise a lot of money for a race. I mean, quite frankly, I have politicians and consultants that absolutely rake me across the coals. And I'm like, I raised $9,000 in a 38-second video. You show me how you did that, being in the middle of nowhere. There's no way I would have name recognition. There's no way that the GOP they're constantly roasting me. How would they know me? It's because I have a following on TikTok, right? I'm able to speak out and I don't need money to do it. I don't need donors to do it because it's free and open. Now, we know what happens when, TikTok decides they don't like our content. Like that's a struggle, right? But yeah, being able to be a voice for rural progressives is a really big deal.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. That's everybody that I've been talking to, their life in some way, shape, or form has been changed by what they've been able to do on TikTok. I just spoke to a gentleman here in one of my recent interviews, I think two episodes ago, who has become known through TikTok for the videos he does of him taking care of his elderly father who has dementia, who wakes up every morning in his son's house and doesn't know where he is.
I've seen him. Yeah, I follow him.
Yeah, and he's not working anymore. He's doing full-time content creation, and it has given him a freedom outside of the normal course of life that he said I would have never been able to have had it not been for the organic growth that happened on TikTok. I mean, I'm interviewing next week. I'm interviewing. Do you know V from Under the Desk News?
Yes.
Yeah. Next week I'm interviewing V. Right? Why? Because I got a following on TikTok and she recognizes me. I got people like Rosie O'Donnell following me and stuff like that. And it's like, I'm a retired landscaper. Why are you following me? Well, we like what you've got to say. So the app is very interesting. It's very unique. I hope that you run again, because I think that more people like you are needed in public office, and I understand why you won't or might not or whatever the case may be. I truly do hope you run again. But can you tell everybody where they can find you on all the various platforms, but more importantly, where they can listen to you, where they can help the cause in Missouri? Give out the websites, give out the addresses, please.
Yeah, on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, I'm Piper from Missouri. On TikTok, I'm just Piper Mo. You can find me at the Dirt Road Democrat and schedule me to speak if you'd like, because I am traveling the country and speaking to rural Democrats. I'm in Idaho a couple times. I'm in Kansas. I'm all over the place. And then also, you can listen every Thursday wherever you get podcasts. The Dirt Road Democrat is published every single Thursday, and I talk to really interesting, people about white Christian nationalism and school privatization and bodily autonomy. So we have a huge range of topics. And also bluemissouri.org if you're interested in giving to down ballot candidates who, Tom, just don't get the funding that they need when we can find someone to run.
Well, I do appreciate you doing this. I wish I would have known about something like Dirt Road Democrats when Adam Kinzinger's district was in existence right now, after they redistricted us, I'm in a solidly blue district. I mean, there is just, with the amount of Chicago residents that are in my district now, there's no way it's never going to not go blue. But had you had that type of organization when Adam Kinzinger was dominating out here in election after election, you speaking to some of these people would have probably done some good. Depending on how deep into the cult Kool-Aid they really are.
Yeah, and I do have a Chicago connection because I'm on the. Do you know who Patty Vasquez is? She has a radio show in Chicago.
The name is very familiar.
Yeah, so I'm on her show once a month, and we talk about what's going on in rural America. But her show always gives me a little bit of panic because they do a segment on traffic, Chicago traffic, before they introduce me. In my heart, like it's just, I'm like, I can't imagine being in traffic. Like if there's a tractor in front of me, like that's a traffic jam out here, you know?
Oh no! So we don't actually measure anything in distance here. We measure everything in time. Oh, it's going to take you about 45 minutes to get there. Well, it's 15 miles away. Yeah, it's going to take you about 45 minutes to get there. It's always distance. It's always time. Before we go, quick story about traffic. So my wife took our two daughters when they were much younger to Soldier Field where the Bears play, right along the Chicago lakefront, to see One Direction. My mother had given them tickets for Christmas, and my wife was taking them to go see One Direction. And the traffic was so bad. They were sitting still for so long that my oldest daughter at the time, not the daughter we discovered through DNA testing, my oldest daughter at the time just looked at my wife. I think she was like 12 or 13. And she's like, I'm just going to go. And she hopped out of the car on Lakeshore Drive and walked the rest of the way and was in her seat watching the show before my wife and my other daughter got in there because it took them that long to actually get to the parking lot. Traffic around here is a way of life. And in April, March, really, when the orange road cones go up, everybody goes, oh, there's Illinois state flower again. The orange road cone, they're going up. It must be spring. Because we have two seasons around here, winter and traffic construction.
Well, we don't mess with our roads out here. They just crumble to gravel, so it doesn't. I've never seen a traffic cone.
Jess, thank you very much for doing this. I do appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was good to talk to you, Tom.
If you need anything, you reach out and let me know, okay?
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much, and good luck raising that money.
Thank you. Bye, Tom.
Bye-bye.